Nostalgia is something we all like. I'm sure a lot of you miss being a kid, and you want to turn back time to the good old days. But we do forget about a lot of the bad things we had to deal with. Sure, when you were a kid, you didn't think about paying bills or waking up because you need to make money, but those times weren't always better, they were just familiar. You forget the lack of control and money you had when you were a kid. You forgot how slow those movies you used to like were, or how glitchy the games you used to play as a kid were. But at least you have remakes, reboots, and continuations of shows and games you used to like, right? Well, no, because they may have better effects and graphics, but something just seems off about them. I'll go over nostalgic properties that were brought back and I still like. There's Cobra Kai. And that's it! I'll go over why I like it at the end of this video. But for now, let's go over all the nostalgic things that have been ruined for me. Marvel, which isn't even that nostalgic. Star Wars, which is super nostalgic to me. And Halo, just to name a few. Let's start with Marvel. The MCU is something I thought would never be made. A bunch of movies that all took place in the same universe and crossed over with one another a lot. As I've already made 2 videos on the MCU very recently. So I'll try to make this brief. The MCU, from the beginning, all the way to Avengers Endgame, seemed to be planned out. And sure, there were some bad movies here and there, but it was unbelievable to me that several movies could all go on for over a decade and still have a satisfying conclusion at the end, only for it to continue with rushed effects, although nothing ever got as bad as the final fight in Black Panther. God, that looks so awful. Thor: Loving Thunder also had several effects issues with it as well, like the awkward floating head boy, along with a whole bunch of other Phase 4 Marvel movies and shows. It doesn't really seem nearly as well planned out, flanderizing several old characters, while also reversing their character development all at once, and replacing them with insufferable characters that almost seemed designed for us to hate them. But I could look past all of that if there wasn't such a focus on identity politics. It appears to me that Disney put identity politics above a well-written story. But if you want more info on that, check out my last 2 Marvel videos. Another Disney product that was even closer to my heart than the MCU was Star Wars. Star Wars: A New Hope was the first movie I remember watching when I was a wee little program in my motherboard. It got a prequel trilogy, which I don't think was as bad as others thought it was. But many of the lines along with their delivery in those movies were just cringy. Don't even get me started on the sand line. Not just the men found that line cringy, but the women and children as well. When me and a lot of others heard that Disney bought up the rights to the Star Wars franchise, we thought Disney would do good by the series, especially now that George Lucas wouldn't have a hand in it anymore. Then everything changed when the directors attacked. We spat on our savior Lucas and invited the devil Mickey into our homes. What fools we were. The first movie was a bunch of nostalgia bait and entirely ignored any plot, like how the First Order ever came to be, or who the fuck Snoke is. Yes, I know we retroactively got an explanation to where he came from, but you can tell it wasn't planned from the start. After the first movie came out, some of the old fans did enjoy it. One of my friends said to me, "Yeah, I know it was a rip-off of A New Hope, but they needed to make some of the old fans feel comfortable and show them something familiar before they show us something new." The second movie, The Last Jedi, completely split the fan base in 2. Some people thought it was the best Star Wars movie ever, while others thought it was the worst Star Wars movie ever. But one thing's for sure, while the first movie was thematically about nostalgia, the second movie's themes were based on letting the past die. That's because each movie had different directors, both with their own ideas on where they wanted to take the story. They both had very different vision. One constantly said, "Do you remember this thing? I remember this. Remember that cool character? Oh yes, I remember." The other harped on, "Remember this thing you liked? These characters you loved? Well, forget debt. I'ma change all of it to be unrecognizable from the property you came to love. Then the third movie came out. It was as if millions of souls screamed out in terror and were silenced. The third movie was yet another nostalgia fest, while also somehow being completely disconnected from anything in the last movie. Oh, and of course, Star Wars is now full of identity politics. Now, let's talk about the last group of Disney-owned properties, the live-action Disney movies. I can sum them all up as, hey, remember those things you saw as a kid and enjoyed them? Well, here's the shittier live-action version, with half the love and none of the emotions. Remember when the only live-action Disney movie was 101 Dalmatians, starring Glenn Close for some reason? I do, and it was fucking weird. Nothing has changed for me. It's still the only good one in my opinion. We got a prequel to that movie that no one asked for one of the most evil people to be brought to film, Cruella de Vil, making her a girl boss when she originally wanted to skin puppies alive for a winter coat was certainly a very odd change. Now, most of the Disney live-action adaptations didn't have too many identity politics at first. They were still not as good as the originals, but here's a little theory I have. Disney was like, oh, Goofy, a lot of people don't like our live-action adaptations. What should we do? Gosh, Mickey, maybe we should add a bunch of female characters. That way, if anyone doesn't like them, we can just accuse them of sexism. Oh boy, that's a brilliant idea, Goofy! The best example for this would probably be Mulan, a movie brought to us and paid for by the CCP to bring propaganda to the living room screen, filmed only a few yards away from the cam. Remember how good the old one was? How it had a well-written female lead? Well, forget that, because Chi and Chakra and other Eastern bullshit that no one asked for is a part of the Mulan lore now. We also get a female villain who's evil until she isn't, because according to a lot of Disney shows and movies coming out nowadays, women evil until they good, because women never evil. Mulan is not a great warrior because she beats the odds and uses her wit to solve her problems. No, of course not. It's cause Mulan got chi, which allows her to cheese her way to the top. I get this is supposed to be like a feminist message, but it basically says, hey women, you can be great as long as you have superpowers. Oh yeah, also, how she unlocks her true power is by taking off her disguise as a man. Why does taking off her disguise give her more power? Because if she's disguised as a man, she's not being true to herself. Wow, their message actually went against the entire premise of the story. I'm amazed. Oh yeah, and before I forget, apparently the live-action Little Mermaid is black. The trailer was not received well at all. My reaction to this wasn't, they made a white character black. My reaction was actually, oh, black people, I'm so sorry that you got stuck with the shittier live-action version. So now that I'm done talking about Disney IPs, I will talk about the non-Disney IPs. I didn't go over Cinderella because I haven't seen it, but Braxton, aka Just Stop, did a very great video already covering it, so just go check that out. Link will be down below. It basically says a bunch of the stuff I was already going over in this very video. So the first nostalgic non-Disney IP I will be going over is a great show with good characters, fantastic animation, and beautiful writing. I would nearly call this show absolutely perfect, but it does have one issue. One small issue that keeps it away from perfection. And that imperfection is Amber. Now, I already did a full video on Amber with MisAnthro and my roommate, so if you want more information, go check that out. But I should note that Amber technically isn't the issue. It's more how everyone reacts to what she does that is the real issue. Before someone uses a race card, yes, she was white in the comics, but she acted completely differently. So in the show, Amber blows up at Mark because he kept a secret from her. That secret being that he was a superhero. A secret that not only keeps her safe, but his friends and family as well. Because in case you didn't know, superheroes have a lot of enemies because they hunt down criminals and other bad guys. And criminals are pretty willing to murder if you didn't know. And the more people that know about his secret identity, the more it puts him and everyone he knows at risk. If he couldn't keep a secret from a girlfriend that he only had for a few months, How long would it be for her until she spills the beans to her parents? But I could look past that. I could understand being angry about something like that in the moment. But both of Mark's friends, one of which is a fucking superhero who has a secret identity of her own, both tell Mark that he was a big meanie and he should have spilled the beans to her about him being a superhero. Like, if one of Mark's friends sided with her and the other one didn't, and let the audience decide who they wanted to side with, that would have been so much better. Everyone would win. Everyone would be happy. But do you know who's so much worse than Amber? Tila from Masters of the Universe. Say what you will about Amber, but at least it took a few episodes before we started hating her character. Tila is awful from episode fucking 1. And even worse than Amber, if you can imagine that. Of course, the trailers advertised this show to be about He-Man, and Kevin Smith said He-Man does no stepping aside. So does He-Man step aside? No, of course not. He just dies in episode fucking 1. I was absolutely loving the show up to that point. But then after he dies, Tila blows up at He-Man's parents because their son kept a secret from her. Lady, their child just died. Have you ever took into considerations other people's feelings aside from your own? Tila also has a black friend now. Okay, they added a black character in to be more progressive, I guess. So does she have a story arc? Nope. Does she have any cool powers? Nope. She's there for diversity and absolutely nothing else. You know what? Maybe I should just have Professor Dreadlock stand next to me for the rest of this video. He's not gonna say anything because I'm recording this while he's at work, but he's there, so no one could criticize me in this video. And by the way, while it's important for people like Invincible to keep their secret identity hidden, it's even more important for He-Man. Because if Skeletor knew that Adam was He-Man, he could tear his throat out before he can say, "By the power of..." Oh, and by the way, in season 2, apparently the king blew up at Adam's mom because she knew his secret identity and he didn't. And she didn't tell her husband. But despite doing exactly what Tila did, he's so sorry for it and apologizes to not only his son after he's brought back to life, but his wife as well. So apparently it's okay for women to do, but not men. There are plenty of other things I could say about Masters of the Universe, but I already went over those in other videos, so just go check those out. You know, I think there's too much negativity in this video, so instead of talking about a nostalgic property that was ruined for me, how about I talk about a nostalgic property that I love more than ever? And that nostalgic property is Cobra Kai. I enjoyed all 3 of the Karate Kid movies. There's only 3. There's not a shitty 4th one that no one cares about. Cobra Kai is a sequel to those movies, with the original actors focusing on Johnny Lawrence, the bully from the first movie. I was really nervous to watch this show at first because it sounds like a really dumb idea, but now that I just finished the 5th season, I gotta recommend it to more people. The show is funny, action-packed, and the plot will throw you for a loop more than once. And surprisingly, the show has better representation for women and minorities more than all the other shows I just listed. They didn't just race bend Johnny Lawrence and say, "See, he's a black guy, you can relate to him now." Instead, they gave us original characters like Aisha, a plus-size black girl, Eli Moskowitz, aka Hawk, an autistic man, Kyler, who's a reverse stereotype, he's a dumb Asian jock. The main character is Miguel, a Latino guy from Ecuador. And this show got strong female characters like Tori and Sam. Although I don't like Sam that much, but she is getting better. I was going to go over why the diversity in Cobra Kai works when all these other shows just fail at it, but the script just kept on going and going. I want this video to be about nostalgia, not about diversity, so that's going to be a video for next time. So the last group of IPs that I want to talk about that have been ruined for me are not movies, TV shows, or comic books. They are video... They are video games! One of my favorite video games of all time is Fallout New Vegas, and I fell in love with the Fallout series because of it. Fallout 4 did a really good job with the power armor, but everything else just seemed lacking to me. I wasn't too big of a fan of the base building, but I was really looking forward to Fallout 76. And I don't think I need to go over how it was a incredible disappointment. They really should have made Fallout 5 through 75 before they got to it. The last IP I want to talk about for this video is Halo. A video game series that was like an angel from God is now a demon with no halo above its head. Huh? See what I did there? Pretty clever, right? Sure, Halo Infinite sold really well for the first few weeks, but now, no one is playing it. And this is Halo, one of the biggest FPSs of all time! The first 3 Halo games were truly legendary. Halo is to the Xbox what Super Smash Bros. Is to Nintendo consoles. Halo ODST used to be really hated when it came out, but now the fans love it more than ever because they see what they got later on. To be fair, I think Halo ODST should have just been a really expensive DLC and not its own game. Halo Reach wasn't a terrible game, but it wasn't as legendary as the other Halo games. Halo 4 had some of the worst balancing with the weapons out of any game I've ever played ever. But at least they added a lot of new enemies, and it did get normies into the series. And out of all the Halo games, I think it actually told the most coherent story. But then Halo 5 came out. They added in microtransactions, a story that felt made up as it went along. No split screen. Yeah, I know they gave reasons as to why they didn't add it in, but let's be honest here, they were all completely bullshit. But believe it or not, this Halo game was actually the one I played the most. But why is that? Well, it was because of its one saving grace: Firefight. I just loved Firefight in Halo 5. It was first introduced in Halo ODST, but for some reason they didn't put it in Halo 4 for whatever reason. But yeah, Halo 5 Firefight was the best firefight in Halo yet. If you haven't played it, I would recommend at least giving it a chance. There's no progression system, no split screen, and they promised a split screen. The CEO literally got up on stage and said because of the backlash that Halo 5 Guardians got for not having split screen, that they would put in split screen in every Halo game moving forward. Sure, they gave us some bullshit reason as to why they didn't have split screen anymore, but guess what? You can still get split screen through glitches. I'm tired of being lied to. Oh, E-Man does no stepping aside, he just dies in episode 1. Oh, Halo Infinite is gonna have split screen, but you can only get it through a glitch. The Act Man already did a pretty good video on why he lost faith in Halo, so if you want more information, I would recommend checking that out.
Trying to create a Halo game where the developers have strict control over what you're allowed to play and how much you're able to enjoy the game is, well, it just doesn't work for Halo. It doesn't fit the business model. I feel like most of my feedback has been completely ignored. It just, until the right people at 343 and Microsoft realize and understand that Halo needs to be first and foremost a social party game, then I'd say prepare for another decade of disappointment.
So, why has nostalgia become such a dirty word? Is it because I'm getting older and things are no longer fresh and new to me? That might be part of the reason, but I think the bigger reason is that new people have taken over these IPs I used to love, didn't treat them with respect, inserted their political agenda into them, and used the good faith of fans of these IPs to lie to them and trick them. But hey, at least I got Cobra Kai and From Software games, so there's still some hope, and I'll use that little hope I got to keep fighting the good fight. And by fighting the good fight, I mean keep making videos on nostalgic IPs I used to love because it makes me a lot more money than any other type of video I used to make. But before I end this video off, I just want to say I made a handful of mistakes in my Hulk video, but I addressed them in the pinned comment underneath the video. If you ever have a problem with any of my future videos, or even this one, please read the pinned comment because I address a lot of the complaints people have in the pinned comment. I kind of wish it was mandatory for people to read the pinned comment underneath new videos before they're allowed to comment under it.